Welcome to this episode of our program Daily Debate. As usual, we will be discussing an important debate. Today we'll be speaking about an important segment in the Egyptian economy, tourism. And Egypt is preparing a national strategy for tourism amid the global disruptions that are witnessed in the whole world. Egypt definitely deserves to be on the spotlight of the world tourism map. The global disruptions have already reflected on tourism globally, and definitely it reflected on Egypt. Today, Egypt is turning a page and is in its tourism industry. It is on the mend. Egypt marked, just we're speaking about the beginning of last year, Egypt ranked first in Africa, fifth in the Middle East, in North Africa, the 51st globally in the World Economic Forum. Recently, that was released, this or Egypt's ranking. And in April, the UK's Daily Mail website selected Egypt as one of the best tourist destinations for the spring-summer of 2022, coming in second place on the list of top holiday destinations. This was the case. The disruption that happened globally, including the pandemic, the Russian-Ukraine war, all this reflected on this sector, and definitely on this sector in Egypt also. We'll be speaking about how Egypt is trying to rebound after such disruptions, how Egypt is preparing a strategy at this upcoming stage in order to be able to confront those challenges reflecting on this industry. We'll be speaking about that with our guest tonight, Mr. Ahmed Mosallam, tourism expert. Thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you. Before we delve into our discussion, let me first take the first top story of the day. And Prime Minister Dr. Mustafa Madbouli arrived this morning in Mogadishu, the Somali capital, on behalf of President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi to attend the inauguration ceremony of the 10th President of Somalia, Hassan Sheikh Mohammed. The Prime Minister was received at the airport by his Somali counterpart, Mohammed Hussein, and the Egyptian ambassador to Somalia, Mohammed El-Baz. The high-level Egyptian representation and participation at the inauguration ceremony is an affirmation of the historic ties that bind the two countries since Somalia's independence in 1960. It also joins President Sisi's repeated assertion of Egypt's determination to continue providing all possible support to Somalia to build and consolidate the institutions of Egypt. Madbouli is expected to meet during the visit with the Somali president to convey a congratulatory message from President Sisi, thus reaffirming Egypt's firm position in providing all the forms of support and assistance to the brotherly country Somalia. Right, before we move on with our discussion, let's first have this quick look on this report. And Egypt enlists international experts to devise a tourism strategy amid global disruptions. Let's watch.
Prime Minister Dr. Mustafa Madbouli met with international consultants to review a revised draft of the Egyptian tourism promotion strategy that comes amid global disruptions to the crucial economic sector. The meeting was also attended by Tourism and Antiquities Minister Khalid Al-Anani, who described the government's collaboration with the team of multinational consultants to draw up a strategy to promote the tourism sector. The consultancy office started updating the strategy 18 months ago through a direct partnership between the Egyptian Tourism Federation, the ETF, and the Tourism and Antiquities Ministry. The consultants hailed the infrastructure work carried out in Egypt over the past few years as well as legislation contributing to a qualitative leap in the tourism sector. The proposed strategy was prepared with the participation of the private sector. The draft strategy comes as Egypt's tourism sector has been struggling recently to absorb the impact of the Russian-Ukrainian war, as the country heavily relies on visitors from both countries. This comes as the tourism sector had only just begun to pick up momentum in 2021, thanks to the return of Russian tourists in Sinai and the holding of high-profile events such as the Golden Parade in April and the opening of the Avenue of the Sphinx in Luxor in late November. According to the Ministry of Tourism and Antiquities, following the setback caused by the coronavirus pandemic, Egypt received 3.5 million tourists in the first 6 months of 2021, garnering revenues of $3.5 to $4 billion. Egypt ranked first in Africa, fifth in the Middle East and North Africa, and 51st globally in the World Economic Forum's recently released 2021 TTDI, released in late May 2022. And in April, the United Kingdom's Daily Mail News website selected Egypt as one of the best tourist destinations for the spring-summer of 2022, coming in second place on the list of top holiday destinations.
Right, welcome back, and starting with our discussion, Mr. Mosallam, and how do you describe the status of tourism at this very particular time?
Well, as you just mentioned from 5 minutes ago, that Egypt deserved to be in the map of tourism. So we are going to ask ourselves a question: is Egypt on the map of tourism? Definitely yes, it is. It's Egypt, come on. But is Egypt deserve to be in that position? If I make a small calculation about some countries in the region, starts with Egypt in 2000, maybe in 4. They used to have 6 million tourists a year. And Egypt got like 8.5 to 9 billion tourists. Nowadays, some of these countries, I mean, it's just one country, having more than 32 million tourists a year. And Egypt's still playing on the 9 to 10 million tourist maximum.
Actually, yes, I understand exactly what's your point here, that even if we reached in 2019 13 million, then we deserve more.
Yes.
I totally understand. But if I'm speaking about now and this particular stage...
That's what we're going to talk about. That's what we're going to talk about. You're talking about the map nowadays, after the infrastructure, after the new...
Rather, no. I'm speaking about the global disruptions that are happening, because by the beginning, only the beginning of 2021, we have seen more than 3.6 million tourists just coming right after the coronavirus with no preparations at all, and that. So what I'm speaking about is, how do you view not just the tourism sector in Egypt, but rather global-wise, and the disruption that are happening and occurring worldwide?
Well, it's globally all affected in all the countries. You can find that there was no tourism during the Corona time. No, any country got any tourism during Corona time. But after Corona, you can find counters start to count again. People start to travel again because they're already bored from getting locked up. The whole thing that I'm talking about, the map that you were talking about, is not against us now. It's with us.
Yes.
If I'm going to talk about infrastructure, prices, monumental sites, history, everything, we got to play it right. So in Egypt, it's affected. I'm not going to say not. And directly after Corona has finished, people start to flood to Egypt. Maybe not perfectly organized, not as it used to be before 2010, like big groups, like the famous, what we call it, charter trips that usually come all around the airports. Even after renovating the airports of Egypt, including Sharm el-Sheikh and Hurghada airports, which is mainly the main destination for most of the tourists who come to us today, like Ukrainians, Russians, some of the Europeans. What I'm thinking of is how we could put Egypt on the map that it deserves. I mean, the number of tourists that's supposed to reach from 30 to 40 million tourists a year, how this is going to happen. So we need to study the global tourism, how it's moving, what is the tourist needs now, how he book for his tour, what is his plan, and
Whose plan?
I believe
What is
the tourist plan. I
the
believe
tourism. This is why here, as we have just seen in this report,
yes,
just
yes.
Before we start, that the Prime Minister himself sat with a number of entities. When we're speaking about entities, not we're speaking just about some personnel, Egyptian personnel. No, he sat with the international experts that we have been seeking in order to be able to see some solution or enlist a strategy along with the Ministry of Tourism, along with some of the, or rather the Egyptian Tourism Federation, the Egyptian Ministry,
That's
plus some of the private sector.
And the minister is already involving 5 ministries in the new project that is supposed to encourage our tourism and boost it in a very good way. I'm just explaining how this is going to happen. By the way that the tourist think, because I am usually dealing with the tourist, I know how he think. I know what's the global tourism needs now. Today, we are going on the right track in a way, in establishing new projects, trying to make the tours for the global tourism in Egypt more easier and more effective, to visit more places in Egypt. This is what the ministers are aiming to make easy transportation, to make easy accommodation. And those are the preparations in the middle of the plan. It could delete the whole plan if it's not done right. And that's what he's doing now. He's involving like 5 ministries in the new project that he's done, like the projects in St. Catherine's, the projects on the Delta, project on Upper Egypt, and in Sinai, the Red Sea as well. If I think the way that the tourists think, if I'm a tourist coming to a resort on the Red Sea or a resort in Hurghada, I'm a diver, for example. I'm planning in my 3 or 4 days trip to visit St. Catherine's Monastery, to visit the Giza Plateau, to go for an overday trip to Luxor, for example. If something go wrong between the tourists will not be able to have a good experience on visiting.
What do you
Egypt.
mean by
Have a good experience?
No. What do you mean by if something happened?
If something happened means that he is not supposed to have an easy way of transportation to make his tour, for example, to travel to Luxor. You get what I mean? If he want to travel to a road like Abu Simbel and he finds some blockage in the road, this could cause a problem for him.
But this doesn't happen, I believe.
Usually it doesn't happen, but there is some kind of obstacles that we usually meet in our way. I mean, on the land. But what I'm thinking of now is not that the tourist is having problems. I'm now already making the tourist enjoying his trip in Egypt in a way by fixing those problems that we used to have now, or from a time ago.
Okay, you are speaking about how a tourist would be very much entertained here in Egypt.
That's true. And that's the point of view that we need to look for, to think how the people think when they come to us.
How to attract tourists is one of the main goals of, I guess, the strategy that has been put. But in order to before he comes even to Egypt, you have to propagate Egypt. So you would understand why would he go to a destination like Egypt in the first place. Which makes me eager to understand from you, what would be the tourists' or what would attract a tourist in the first place to look into a destination?
Okay. Away from talking about Egypt that got 3,600 sites registered in the UNESCO, away from talking about it's the most unique historical playground, as I usually call it, historical and religious and monumental importance, which is usually visited by the tourist to know, because mostly people who visit the world, go around the world, they say, we have to visit Egypt. It's supposed to be part of our itinerary. I mean, Egypt is really important. We have to see all the monumental sites of Egypt. So this is something that he is aiming to. But number one for the main choices now, especially when most of the people are booking their tours through internet or charter trips, or the most cheap way to come in. Okay? To come in Egypt, have to have a way of charter trips. Charter trips are very effective.
We're now speaking about the very common tourists.
Yeah,
we're not
the very
speaking
common
about
tourists.
celebrities or because we have seen during the past just few years some of the big names coming
That's
to Egypt
true.
here. So we're not just speaking about prices. There are other issues that attract other different segment of the tourists, right? But we're speaking about the very common tourists who wants just to spend his holidays, right?
That's true.
Please continue.
That's true. And when I talk to some of the tourists in the United States, for example, and they're supposed to be from the rich society, I mean, the rich standard of tourists, he's telling me, I'm planning for visiting some country right next to me, I'm gonna pay like something around $999. So he's thinking of the price first. And this is helping us. I mean, this is not against us, because if I say Egypt got a cheap resorts, a cheap
Affordable.
place. It's affordable for
and
everybody.
yes.
And everybody is looking for the cheapest place to visit. I mean, when it comes to booking their tours through internet, they are looking through the cheapest place to visit. So I have to put this in my mind when I'm booking a tour, when I'm planning for a tour, because I understand that mainly 70 to 78% of the tourists who come to Egypt are the tourists who are paying less, not the celebrities. The celebrities are mainly 2 to 5% all around the world.
All these that are being shown on the screen are beautiful scenes of Egypt, because this is indeed Egypt, and all these are just beautiful places in Egypt. Yes, continue, please.
Okay, so when we talk about how Egypt is beautiful, a lot of people, but
The
how
most
we
beautiful. The most beautiful.
make some kind of announcement for the people who are just looking for the tours, which is less in the price, number one. This is going to be number one. That's what I usually see. Number two is how it's easy to visit this country. What I'm going to gain from visiting this country. So I believe some of the project which is done now.
You said two things. Each of them has its own importance.
Yeah.
So how easy to come. We're speaking here about facilities given by the government or by the concerned authorities in order to facilitate the tourists coming to Egypt. And you're speaking why. And that is another question, because there are a variety of answers to this.
It's true.
Why? So, first, let me take facilities. How easy it is for a tourist to come to Egypt?
How easy for a tourist to come to Egypt? When you come to Egypt, it's easy to come first by booking his own plane, by booking his own way of transportation. Organizing the tour in Egypt need special preparations, not like any other country. Because when the tourist comes to Egypt, he's not going to visit 1 or 2 or 3 sites. He got at least 80 sites to visit if you want to stay in Egypt and visit most of the important sites. So to prepare that in a country like us, need that preparations I'm talking about.
So
how
we're
quick,
not
how
just
it's easy, how it's cheap.
how easy
Yeah.
entrance,
Yeah.
the visas,
Yeah,
which
the visa-
became more facilitated through
Yeah,
the,
yeah.
the internet.
This has been done through.
Very recent,
Yeah,
very
very
recent,
recent,
just a few years ago,
And
just
it's
two, 3
after the
years.
corona directly, I believe, it was done.
Even before the corona, they started off facilitating the visa issue, and then it was to be put on a website where you can take the approval on online.
Online, yes, yes.
I'll be continuing on with you our discussion, but before we continue on with our discussion, let's have this second report. And Egypt unveils major find of 250 sarcophagi and 150 statues in Saqqara, one of the biggest cache in sometimes. Let's watch.
Egypt has unveiled a major new archaeological find of 250 sarcophagi, 150 small bronze statues of gods and goddesses, and other antiquities at the Saqqara necropolis. Discovery was made by Egyptian Archaeological Mission working in the necropolis since 2018. Mustafa Waziri, Secretary General of Egypt's Supreme Council of Antiquities, displayed part of the cache, including 35 of the painted wooden coffins, in a televised event at the UNESCO Heritage Site south of Cairo. Mr. Waziri said there were many surprises to come and that he hoped the mission would find the grave of Imhotep, who changed architecture by building what is believed to be the oldest still standing large-scale stone monument. Dating back more than 2,500 years to the late period, the sarcophagi are in good condition and all included mummies inside. This is the largest number of coffins and bronze statues to be unearthed by the Egyptian Archaeological Mission at the site near the famous step pyramid of Djoser. The find is one of several made at Saqqara, the necropolis of the ancient capital of Memphis, in recent years. The Egyptian mission has completed its fourth excavation of the site since April 2018 and will conduct a fifth in September after the hot summer months. All of the items will be transported to the Grand Egyptian Museum, which is scheduled to be completed by September, or the Egyptian Museum in Tahrir, to be studied before deciding on where they will be displayed permanently. Saqqara has proved a treasure trove for human and animal mummies, sarcophagi, statues, and other items from ancient Egypt. Egypt hopes the archaeological discoveries and media attention will help spur tourism.
Right, welcome back. And yes, we are trying to grab all the opportunities for the tourism sector, and we are trying to just catch our dreams there. Let me know of what you were speaking about and about preparations for big campaigns to be taking place, please.
Yeah. Usually we understand that most of the countries that is boosting its tourism is usually attracting people by new ideas. And that's what we are doing since 2019 now, even before Corona. And we just noticed that before Corona, we reaches 10.5 million tourists. This is because of the ideas that was prepared to make a better way for the tourism to be achieved in Egypt, to boost in Egypt. One of these projects, not just opening museums, like new museums all around Egypt, not building the infrastructure, building some useful resorts. For example, if I'm visiting a site like St. Catherine,
yes.
or St. Catherine, as we call it in Arabic. St. Catherine's, it's not for all the people at St. Catherine's. Some Arabs and foreigners call it St. Catherine or St. Catherine. This location is unique in Egypt, not just unique historically or religiously or even monumentally. The location of the place, which is elevated from the sea level over 1.5 kilometers. The whether the mountains, for example, Mount Sinai, Mount Moses, the people who are targeting this place are coming for a kind of pilgrimage to visit. One of the most famous sites that Prophet Moses, peace be upon him, received the Ten Commandments on and meet Allah, meet his God. That
Meet God.
meet God, yes, of course.
On tour.
And this location of this place is unique,
Tour
even with the
mountain,
mountains
no.
around.
Yes.
The monastery in this place, which is related to so many historical issues that happens starting from the middle of the 6th century. The oldest library, that biblical library that got the Greek Orthodox Codex.
Here.
When we talk about this place,
Those are the excavations in Saqqara. Yes.
the new excavations. 250
Yes, please continue.
sarcophagi, guys.
Yes, here is the Prime Minister tour in Tenkate.
Yes, he's
Yes.
talking about how
Please continue.
this achievement took more than 1 year to be announced right now. So this place, for example, got the oldest well-known biblical library, got the Codex of the Greek Orthodox, which is the oldest. So people, when they come there, they want to see this library. They want to see one of the most oldest icons for Christ, peace be upon him, on St. Catherine's Monastery. So this place have to be prepared in a way for the tourists, not just to visit it for 2 hours as we usually do and go back quickly. Now, there is a project been done, going to cost 4 billion Egyptian pounds, to make accommodation.
That is the one, by the way.
Make accommodation for the people who are living there, which is actually exceeding very slowly from 4.6 thousand living in St. Catherine's area up till 9,000 now. So those people, when they are exceeded and found a better way of accommodation, they will serve tourism in a better way. So that's why.
Those, by the way, are the sarcophagus that were
Yeah.
discovered and the statues.
The statues, bronze statues, busted,
Yes,
very famous pieces
yes,
were already found in the tombs.
yes.
Prime
But
Minister Abdullah.
what we were speaking about, what you said is very important, because you spoke about a different kind of tourism, which is the religious one.
Yeah.
Because in Egypt we have all types of tourism, and not everyone knows about, for instance, sports tourism. We're supposed to be holding the Gate Travel Expo that will be in September 6 to 9. That is a kind of sports tourism. We're holding a number of conferences in different places in Egypt, and the last will be COP27. It's a global one of great importance.
That's amazing.
We are also I mean, this is the type of conference tourism, for an instance. So religious, so sports. So we're speaking about conference tourism. We're speaking also about the cultural one, which is in just few months will be celebrating the century, or the 100-year anniversary of the discovery of the Tutankhamun
Tomb, yes.
tomb. Yes, indeed.
So many events and issues, yes, of course. I believe 2008 I was asking why don't we make a very huge sport event in Egypt, just for common thing like cycling, for example.
So it seems they heard you and they are holding this gate travel.
This, in some countries, are attracting maybe 500,000 tourists in 1 month. Only a kind of one event. When I look to conference tourism, I used to have a conference for 800 psychiatrists and physicians from all around the world. And they enjoy their tour in a 5-star hotel. They go around Cairo, but they only have 1 day for the tour in Cairo. not much time to visit Upper Egypt or the main resorts in Egypt. And this is something that they were not preparing for. They just prepare for the
Conference, attend the conference.
Our role, which we should play, is to make this 800 people plan for an extra 2 or 3 days to make a tour in all around of Egypt. And this is what we're supposed to promote, in a way. Because the conference company or the airlines or whatever who's preparing this issue is preparing for the cost of visiting this place for 1 or 2 or 3 days, and that's it. Not for visiting Egypt as a place that you have to grab the opportunity to visit the sites of Egypt, which is actually cheaper than any other place, even India. This is the promotion for the tours. How to create a kind of transportation like what we call it the charter trips, the transit trips, the speedboats, use our harbors all around Egypt to make the tours more easy for everybody who's thinking. And by this way, we could grab the elite society that we are talking about, if we are talking about all kind of tourism, not just the affordable tourism. You get what I mean? So I believe in some areas in Egypt,
luxurious ones,
as we usually say, and it was already found, it was already existing in Egypt before 2008. I could find in such a very costly hotels, there's no space for one room. We used to book before 2008. We could find a
because indeed Egypt has all the attractions of the whole world. I'm not just speaking about the cultural one, but all the attractions from all angles.
That's true.
Yes,
That's
continue.
True. So when I say such a project that costs that kind of expenses, it's going to grab the people who are working in tourism business to go and live in such a place, to serve better the tourist. It's going to make the tourist spend more time to discover more in this place, not just 2 hours to visit, just spend 2 or 3 days. And from that, it could be a spot for planning tours all around Egypt.
Yes, because he would just take a very quick look into what he has seen, and he would want to come once again in order to discover more about the country.
Yeah.
Right?
When I ask a tourist who's coming from Israel for 3 days, how many churches you visit, they say about 25 churches. I say, what, 25 churches or monasteries, and you're coming here for 1 day to visit St. Catherine's only and go back to Cairo or Sharm el-Sheikh. This is because the tour is easy to be done there. I mean, no bureaucracy, there's always achieving in time. So we need to go with the track, go with the new market, internet market. Use the time in our tours. And that's what is done now, to prepare a better place for accommodation, a better way of transportation, and more promotion outside Egypt to let people know more. But tell you a fact, Egypt is not supported by so many countries. Egypt is supported only by Egypt. So people who know about Egypt, who know because of our effort. Some countries that having the tourism in a different scale have no much even ideas to promote for tourism, and they're having too much tourists. That's called marketing. They were marketed by another countries.
And I have to leave it here because my time is out and they are just telling me.
Yeah.
So I guess, yes, we'll leave it at marketing and the importance of propagating for Egypt. Mr. Ahmed Mosallam, tourism expert, we thank you so much for being with us. Fortunately, I have to end.
Thank you for having me, and appreciate
the pleasure.
The new ideas that we are discussing.
Indeed. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
And dear viewers, many thanks for watching. Our next debate will be on Sunday, so until next Sunday, it's goodbye.